The username was DoggFood. The market lived behind Tor. The payments moved in Bitcoin. The seller had no face. Then postal inspectors recovered a fingerprint from a package. It belonged to Keith Skinner. He was a former postal worker in Maryland. The man hiding behind Tor had once worked inside the postal system. His marketplace account displayed no legal name. His parcel displayed his touch. It had weight. It had ink. It had adhesive, fibers, dimensions, a time, a route, and a destination. Skinner could change a username in seconds, but he could not ship heroin through a screen. And once investigators understood that, the hidden business began leading them home. On Dream Market, the transaction felt almost weightless. A customer opened the site through Tor. The customer chose a product. The customer paid with Bitcoin. The customer sent an address. The marketplace separated buyer from seller. The username carried the reputation. The network concealed the location. The payment avoided an ordinary card account. Then the order had to leave the screen. Powder went into a bag. The bag went into a parcel. A label came out of a printer. Postage went onto the package. Someone carried it to a collection point. Someone placed it inside the United States mail. The digital transaction became a physical object. And physical objects remember contact. They collect prints. They pass cameras. They enter machines. They move through routes controlled by someone else. The dark web could hide the meeting. It could not erase the delivery. The first crucial link came from a package. Federal court information described by the Justice Department revealed the next break. A recipient in North Carolina told investigators what he had purchased. He said he had used Bitcoin to buy heroin from DoggFood on Dream Market. That statement connected a package to a vendor identity. The buyer supplied the name. The mail supplied the trail. Postal inspectors began looking at related shipments. Between September 2017 and January 2018, they intercepted more than 20 packages Skinner had sent through the mail. The packages contained controlled substances. The combined contents included heroin and buprenorphine. One parcel could vanish into the daily flood. 20 parcels could begin to resemble a system. Every sale demanded the same ritual. Receive the address. Prepare the narcotics. Measure the portion. Seal the contents. Print the label. Add the postage. Choose a drop point. Deposit the parcel. Then the cycle begins again. Then the cycle begins again. Then the cycle begins again. Repetition made the business efficient. Repetition also made the business visible. Inspectors could compare packaging. They could compare labels. They could compare return information, postage, routing, sealing, timing, and drop locations. They could connect seized parcels to online orders. They could watch for the next physical step. And one of those packages carried something more direct. The package carried Skinner's fingerprints. The account was anonymous. The touch was not. But the case did not rest on one dramatic clue. The clues began locking together. A buyer identified DoggFood. Intercepted parcels contained drugs. Surveillance followed mailing activity. Physical evidence tied Skinner to packages. Then a search of his residence joined the online storefront to the machinery behind it. Investigators found a laptop used to operate DoggFood on Dream Market. They found printed labels. They found plastic baggies. They found a digital scale. They found heat sealers and bag sealers. They found Priority Mail and Priority Mail Express supplies. They found postal stamps, cash, drugs, and a firearm. The rooms contained both halves of the operation. The laptop was the storefront. The supplies were the warehouse. The mail was the distribution network. That is the illusion at the center of Darknet commerce. The listings resemble ordinary e-commerce. Reviews replace personal trust. Encrypted messages replace meetings. Cryptocurrency replaces cash passed hand to hand. The screen makes the trade feel purely digital. But a physical product still demands physical labor. Someone must acquire it. Someone must store it. Someone must weigh it. Someone must package it. Someone must move it. Tor was never designed to hide those actions. Tor can obscure an internet connection. It cannot erase a fingerprint from a parcel. It cannot stop a camera from recording a postal drop. It cannot make a package arrive without passing through the world. And success only deepens the problem. More customers create more revenue. More customers create more orders. More orders create more packages. More packages create more labels, more supplies, more printing, more trips, and more chances to repeat a mistake. Efficient businesses standardize. They choose familiar materials. They choose reliable routines. They choose known drop locations. Standardization helps customers receive what they ordered. Standardization helps investigators recognize who fulfilled it. By January 2018, authorities said Skinner had sold approximately 290.5 grams of heroin. They said he had sold approximately 97.5 grams of cocaine. They said he had sold 216 units of buprenorphine. Those numbers describe narcotics. They also describe a workload. Every portion had to cross the same boundary. The product moved from a hidden marketplace into public logistics. The trail moved from username to label. The trail moved from Tor to touch. Skinner tried to distribute that exposure. Investigators said he involved other people in dropping packages at Baltimore post offices. Some were unusually vulnerable because of physical or mental conditions. The logic was simple. If a camera recorded the person depositing a parcel, it might not record the vendor. But distance created new evidence. Every helper became a witness. Every helper became a relationship. Every helper became a possible point of cooperation. Skinner still had to prepare the parcels. He still had to transfer them. He still had to communicate instructions. One man's secret became several people's conduct. Centralize the work, and the routine gathers around the organizer. Distribute the work, and the network fills with human links. That was the logistics paradox. There was no purely digital escape. The customer was still waiting for a physical delivery. The United States Mail offered everything a trafficker could want. It was nationwide. It was reliable. It was inexpensive. It moved sealed packages at enormous scale. A vendor did not need to build a private courier network. The infrastructure already reached almost every address. Yet that infrastructure had its own investigators. The United States Postal Inspection Service is a federal law enforcement agency focused on crimes involving the mail. Its inspectors understand labels, postage, collection points, facilities, scans, and routes. They understand what normal mail looks like, and that lets them notice what repeats. Once a dark web sale entered that system, the case was no longer only cyber. It became a mail case. Online, the vendor chose the pseudonym. Online, the vendor chose the communication tools. Inside the postal system, the vendor entered machinery he did not control. The parcel moved through someone else's facilities. It moved through someone else's scans. It moved along someone else's routes. Under appropriate authority, investigators could intercept suspected mail. They could observe deposits. They could conduct controlled purchases. They could compare one shipment against the next. The vendor could place false information on a label, but false information was not no information. A fictitious return address could repeat. A formatting choice could repeat. A printer could leave similar artifacts. An envelope size could repeat. A sealing method could repeat. A drop schedule could repeat. Every attempt to look ordinary could become a signature. DoggFood faced another problem. The business needed a stable identity. Buyers needed to recognize the seller. Reviews needed somewhere to accumulate. Repeat customers needed a name to find again. The username protected Skinner's legal identity. It also gathered the evidence under one brand. Once investigators associated packages with dog food, the account organized the physical trail for them. The same name that attracted customers defined the target. An undercover order could tighten that connection. The investigator controlled the destination and knew when the purchase was made. When the parcel arrived, the transaction and the shipment could be examined together. The seller saw another customer. The investigator saw an experiment. No single shipment had to reveal everything. One package revealed preparation. Another package revealed timing. Another carried a fingerprint. Surveillance could capture a drop. Postal records could expose a larger group. The case accumulated the same way the business had accumulated. The business grew order by order. The case grew trace by trace. What looked weak alone became difficult to dismiss together. The mail also created a timeline outside the vendor's control. A marketplace account could disappear. Messages could be erased. A seller could claim that somebody else controlled the username. But parcels entered the mail on specific dates. They arrived at specific destinations. Undercover orders recorded when purchases were made. Surveillance recorded activity around a drop. Seized devices recorded communications and account access. When those timelines aligned once, the result could be coincidence. When they aligned repeatedly, they described an operation. An order could be accepted in the evening. A label could appear later that night. A familiar parcel could enter the mail the next morning. One sequence raised a question. Repeated sequences answered it. Investigators did not need to watch every shipment. They only needed to sample the system and test whether the relationships continued. Volume did the rest. Across 2 packages, a pattern might look ambiguous. Across 20, the same pattern became harder to ignore. The vendor made fulfillment predictable for customers. That made fulfillment predictable for observers. Customer service tightened the schedule even further. Buyers expected dispatch times, replacements, and answers about delays. A vendor who wanted strong reviews had to keep those promises. Reputation tied the hidden account to consistent, real-world performance. The marketplace could vanish. Customers could still preserve messages, order records, and packaging. One recipient could turn an unexplained parcel into part of a known store. The North Carolina buyer tied the shipment to DoggFood and Dream Market. The investigation could now move in both directions. From the parcel, inspectors could search toward the source. From the account, investigators could search for more parcels. The physical evidence narrowed the digital evidence. The digital evidence narrowed the physical evidence. Neither world was complete alone. A listing showed an offer. It did not prove who shipped the product. A parcel held the product. Did not automatically reveal which username sold it. Join them, and the listing became evidence of commerce. Join them, and the package became evidence of fulfillment. Join them again and again, and an isolated sale became an enterprise. That enterprise carried consequences beyond the marketplace. Heroin did not become safer because it arrived in professional packaging. Buyers could not know its potency or composition with certainty. A scene of harm could become the beginning of a postal trail. A device could show the order. A parcel could preserve the route. What looked like the final step of a completed sale could become the first step of an investigation. Skinner knew the postal world. He had worked inside it. Familiarity may have created confidence. He may have believed he could avoid obvious mistakes or disappear inside routine volume. But knowledge could not remove the need to ship. The operation still produced labels. It still consumed stamps. It still required supplies. It still created parcels. It still demanded trips. Technique could change the contact. It could not eliminate the contact. Dark web vendors often fear the sophisticated layers first. They fear exposed IP addresses. They fear cryptocurrency tracing. They fear marketplace seizures. They fear what encrypted messages might reveal. Those risks are real. But the weakest layer may be the ordinary work. They print, they pack, they drive, they mail, they store supplies. They ask someone else for help. Routine feels harmless because it looks separate from the technology. So an operator can protect an online identity with care, then repeat the same physical habit hundreds of times. Investigators do not need to defeat every privacy tool. They need one place where the hidden identity overlaps with the physical operation. A laptop beside printed labels can expose that overlap. A fingerprint on a parcel can expose that overlap. A helper carrying prepared packages can expose that overlap. The search of Skinner's residence made that overlap visible. A laptop is common. Stamps and plastic bags are common. A heat sealer is not proof by itself. But context changes objects. Place those objects beside intercepted narcotics shipments. Place them beside fingerprints, surveillance, drugs, and the laptop used to operate DoggFood. Now the room tells a different story. It was no longer a collection of household items. It was a fulfillment center. The fingerprint needed that context too. A print proves contact. It does not automatically prove when or why that contact happened. That is why the wider case mattered. The buyer's statement supported the parcel trail. The parcels supported the surveillance. The surveillance supported the search. The search supported the link to DoggFood. No single clue had to be magical. Each clue only had to confirm the next. The vendor faced the opposite burden. Every layer had to remain separate. He had to protect the network identity. He had to protect the payment identity. He had to conceal the inventory location. He had to vary the mailing routine. He had to separate the helpers. He had to secure the devices. One failure could guide investigators toward the others. Physical commerce multiplied those layers. A seller of stolen digital credentials could deliver a file without leaving a room. A narcotics vendor had to manage matter moving in both directions. The drugs came from somewhere. The packaging was purchased somewhere. The waste went somewhere. The parcels traveled somewhere. The proceeds became living expenses somewhere. The dark web simplified marketing. It did not simplify matter. Even the smallest parcel obeyed physical constraints. It had to survive the journey. It had to look ordinary. It had to carry a usable address. Those demands encouraged standard choices. The materials became standard. The sealing became standard. The timing became standard. The drop points became standard. The seller was trying to look like everyone. The inspector was looking for what kept repeating. Helpers could move the drop points and keep the organizer away from a camera, but the packages could still share the same preparation. Every handoff created another conversation. Every handoff created another witness. For the vulnerable people used in Skinner's operation, the distance meant transferred danger. They carried the parcels. They carried the legal risk. The organizer kept the marketplace account. Criminal logistics often distributes exposure downward. Packers see one part. Couriers see another. Account holders see another. Investigators rebuild the hierarchy by following the instructions and handoffs. When Skinner's residence was searched, the abstraction ended. The online name occupied one side of the case. The physical parcels occupied another. The person connected them. That was the moment the entire system was designed to prevent. The screen suggested the marketplace existed nowhere. The products proved it had to exist somewhere. There had to be a shelf. There had to be a table. There had to be a printer. There had to be a scale. There had to be a package. There had to be a person. The internet could hide the storefront's location. Fulfillment kept announcing that a location existed. Postal evidence and surveillance could narrow the geography. Then the question changed. Investigators were no longer searching the entire internet for DoggFood. They were testing whether one person and one residence explained the parcels already observed. The unknown identity became a physical hypothesis. A warrant could test that hypothesis. Was the device there? Were the labels there? Were the drugs there? Were the packaging materials there? Were the funds and records there? In Skinner's case, investigators found the tools consistent with the business they had reconstructed. The logistics trail had returned to its workshop. Skinner pleaded guilty to conspiracy to distribute heroin, cocaine, and buprenorphine. The pseudonym had separated seller from customer. It could not separate Skinner from fulfillment. DoggFood was a digital brand. Its promises were physical. Customers paid because they expected a package to arrive. Every successful delivery proved the business worked. Every successful delivery created another object investigators could find. The marketplace hid the meeting. The mail replaced it with a chain. The chain carried labels. The chain carried postage. The chain passed through collection points. The chain carried parcels. The chain depended on helpers. The chain preserved fingerprints. Online, DoggFood existed behind Tor. In the real world, Skinner had to touch the package. The screen forgot him. Matter remembered.